Hello, this is my presentation for assignment 1. If we could go to slide 1 please. This is the title slide and it's the title of my presentation is Key Principles of Marxism and its Usefulness in Understanding Anthropological Data. If we could go to slide 2 please. Marx produced his economic determinist writings in the context of the epoch of the burgeoning Industrial Revolution, as he saw the unfolding creation of a beleaguered and exploited workforce subordinated by the audacious creep of capitalism. His call for change and revolution against the social order was galvanised. If we could go to slide 3 please. Marx and Engels defined class in terms of economy, interpreting ideology as the thought and consciousness of a particular class. Decades later, a Marx-influenced Gramsci shed the theory of Marxist economic determinism, re-explaining social positioning in the realms of ideas, hegemony. More recently, Woodfin and Zarate say class as a social more is becoming extinct, and I quote them here: "Classes in a post-industrial world are decomposing and degenerating. People no longer feel their class as the primary aspect of their identity." Slide 4 please. Today, some theorists interpret social phenomena from the approach of classic Marxism, others by redefinition. What is clear is that Marxist philosophy can be traced as one of the abiding foundations of postmodern and current discourse about social change. Its approach can be applied to examples of social divisions such as race and gender inequality, as well as the key Marxist principle of economic inequality and exploitation by the ruling classes. Leclau and MOV want to create a new way of talking about Marxism, and they call it post-Marxism, retaining the moral and ethical dimensions of traditional Marx theories. Slide 5 please. As self-proclaimed Marxist anthropologist Burawoy states, Marxism should always self-correct, and its worth lies in the premise about emancipation, the nature of the world, and possibilities. The issues of economy, trade, and politics may not be identified as having Marxist focus, but must nevertheless hold centre stage when we grapple with the issues of economic inequalities, globalisation, and development. Slide 6 please. Keith Hart's 2001 article serves to bring our attention to economic inequalities and imagining solutions. He speaks of how anthropologists can play a part in addressing economic issues. He writes about the effects of post-colonial globalization and the resulting contradiction of the world's distribution of wealth through the North and the South. He calls for an anthropological vision, dialogue and strategy to help bring about a more democratic world economy, and that could include restructuring of capitalism. In setting out his argument, Hart deliberately uses classic Marxist terminology, speaking of the petty bourgeoisie to describe today's middle class, declaring that it is these people and their representative groups that have the privilege and power and the capability to advocate on behalf of the proletariat, what we would think of as the vulnerable and marginalised in the world. Slide 7 please. While looking at the usefulness of Marxist principles in understanding anthropological data, namely global and social issues, which I've chosen as a focus, I believe it's helpful to bring into the balance a voice of someone who calls himself as a non-Marxist and argues against Marx's evaluation of what lies behind exploitation and poverty. Thomas Pogue is a leading light in economic philosophy and social justice discourse. He does not see the institution of market economy as the root cause of poverty. For Pogue, modern day issues of global poverty and inequality can be traced back to the consequences of colonialism, and he believes that the responsibility to eradicate global poverty and inequality of wealth lies with the citizens of affluent countries. Slide 8, please. In writings about Marx's view on colonialism, it is Edward Said's claim that Marx bought into the standard image of romantic Orientalism. However, in his book Marx at the Margins, Kevin Anderson seeks to redress the balance, arguing that the writings of Marx and Engels should not be viewed out of context, and that we should accept that over time their social critique on what they would call native emancipation evolved, and the long-term view should be that they were indeed humane and sympathetic towards those who suffered consequences of colonialism. Please go to slide 9. Speaking from a greatly informed position, having produced ethnographic writings from working alongside factory hands in the Soviet bloc, Burraway states, between theory and ethnography, there is a continuous dialogue which brings both into clearer view. Simply put, these diverse and extensive experiences he had in the factories made him to land upon a reinterpretation and a reconstruction of Marx's theory. He concluded that through his encounters as a participant observer, he found socialism and capitalism reconceptualized, and the power of hegemony to be alive and well, but playing out in both arenas. When reflecting on his ethnographic experiences, he did hold on to his belief that Marxism remained unchanged as a theory grounded in the principle of emancipation. Slide 10, please. In looking at the discourse of Marx, writers influenced by him and others such as Pogue, we can nevertheless see a common thread between them all that brings our attention to some of the negative effects of globalization and the inheritances of colonialism. All of the writers tell us that inequality demands an ethical response, and the empirical data should draw us to search for what this means when examining issues of inequality today and into the future. And now on to our final slide. Slide 11, please. Pogue calls for economic data to be grounded in the real world, providing an empirically informed view on global justice. This brings us back to the position of the anthropologist as ethnographer and the relevance of Marx's principles. A vivid example of this is Mark Bletcher's study of the failures of China's state socialism and the effects on people's lives in China. He focuses on Marx's theories of labour politics and Gramsci's principle of hegemony to provide illumination on the results of China's economic reforms and the impact of global economies on individuals. This provides a valuable reflection on the impact of global markets and shifting power, issues we can see we were warned of in the writings of Marx and Engels and reconceptualized over time by other Marxists in their theories. Thank you.